We are buying and selling UCF stock with just a couple weeks remaining. Who are we deciding is going to make a real impact or not so real impact for your night? So everybody, welcome back to Charge On. As always, I am your host, Sean Green. And as always, we are sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, college football is almost here. I've been mentioning it every week. If you want to get in on the action and betting on your hometown team, the UCF Knights, download FanDuel. That is the place to put in your bets this college football season. The one that I've been telling everybody to do is the UCF win total, 5.5. I'm betting the over. What are you going to do? Let us know in the comments. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, as you see, 3 bucks. Me, Nick, Stephen Leonard. We've got Andrew Cherico on at the end of this episode, so if you want to go check that out, tune into this first, but he will be there at the end. Guys, it is August 15th, so we are 13 days away from actually having football to watch. And I couldn't be happier because I love doing these things. It's good getting to talk to UCF personalities for the next couple weeks, releasing Meet the Knights. We appreciate everybody loving the series. It means a lot to us. But I'm about done. I'm about done with the off season. It's not off season anymore, but I'm about done talking. I'm ready to lace it up. But Nick, I want to go to you first. Been a couple weeks, partially because of me. We've been having some guests on at not opportune times for Mr. Geddes. But how have you been?
I'm good. I got to get locked in on this UCF football season because we're rapidly approaching. Before we know it, we're going to be here already. And I can't wait to get up to Orlando to see how this team finally looks like. And I sort of echo what you said. I'm tired of going through this and trying to predict what this is going to look like. And I just want to see it at some point. But yes, happy to return to the show as always.
And then obviously, special guest, Stephen Leonard, obviously a staple on the channel here and there, going to be a staple here in the next couple weeks during the season on our post-game live show. But Stephen's Places on Substack. Go find that. Go check that out. Doing great work, obviously. I'm going to say it before he tells you. He came up with the topic for us to do on his segment on the show today. So you can thank him for this wonderful podcast topic. But Stephen, how are we doing?
You're going to get me a lot of hate in the comments now because they're going to hate the episode. Hate on Stephen, I guess, in the comment section. As long as you're commenting, I'm doing great.
That's my motto. Doesn't matter what you comment, just as long as you comment. All right, so here's kind of how this segment of the pod is going to work. We are buying and selling stock. So we've kind of seen, we've heard through grapevines, and like I said, we've seen with our eyes just some of the players at open practices and stuff like that. And I think we've gathered enough information to be able to buy some stock on some players that maybe you need to keep your eye out on, or we're definitely going to keep our eye out on this season, and players that maybe we are selling for the time being. They are not offering this on FanDuel, but if they were, this would be something that I would definitely buy stock into. We did a little pre-draft pick on how this is the order of this serpentine draft, if you will. It's going to go Stephen, then Nick, then me. And then obviously for those that draft, then I will get the pick first, the next, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, we're going to start with the buying aspect. So players that we were buying into this UCF football season. Stephen, you get the first pick. Who are you buying first?
I think I'm going to go with the only secured starter in the secondary, Philip Dunham II. FAU and Indiana at formerly. 107 tackles, 7 takeaways, 10 pass breakups in the last 2 years. Proved it at a Power 4 level. I think he, of anyone in that defense, is the most experienced, and I think he's going to have a breakout year.
Well, he did have a breakout spring, and I think he's carried it over to fall, so that's definitely a good first pick. Nick, who do you have picking? Who are you buying stock on for your first pick?
I'm going to stick in the secondary, which I think might be one of the position groups I have the most confidence in when it comes to UCF right now, at least of what I know. And I'm going to go with Antoine Jackson here. And I know Antoine Jackson is a player who maybe we picked on a little bit last year. I don't want to. I know that makes it sound so bad, but I mean,
It was
he
more.
didn't really.
It was a lot. It was
It
a
was a
lot.
lot. It was
But
a
he had
lot.
an
But
injury. We have an excuse. We didn't know there was an injury.
yes,
So it's fair.
I was getting to that. He's played with the injury for the last 2 years, going back to his time at East Carolina, and he seems to be really healthy, obviously in good spirits. And from everything what I've heard, he's been a true standout in camp and might end up being cornerback one when we get to this season. So clearly, there's a lot to like about Antoine Jackson. It's the kind of player that you don't want to just completely just throw the book on because of what happened last year with the injury. So right now, I'm buying a lot of stock into what Antoine Jackson could be for that UCF defense.
Yeah, and just the clips that we've seen, he looks completely different. Now, granted, it's practice. Like, we have to wait until the games come up and he's actually facing competition. But he just looks like he's moving completely different. And I think having like a hip injury that he had, that makes total sense that he's moving just completely differently. But he's going to need to be big for UCF, especially with the secondary that you can't really. There's guys that you can rely on, but it's a lot of new guys, especially in that secondary that maybe you're not as comfortable with. So hopefully he can kind of take that step. My guy, I'm going to go straight up. Cam Fancher. I think everybody's hearing the same thing. You're seeing a lot from UCF media and people like that. The Cam Fancher, like, I think people just think there's like smoke, but it's like not smoke. They think, oh, there's no way. There's way. I think everybody's hearing kind of the same thing. UCF released a clip where he's right up with the in the middle of the field. We don't know if there's captains yet. We have not heard, but it kind of looks that way as the leaders of the team are right in the middle of everybody. He's right up at front. And everything we've seen, we saw in fall or in spring, everything we've heard from players and stuff that don't sleep on Cam Fancher. And it kind of seems like right now he's got the path to be quarterback one. He took quarterback one reps this past week. That kind of tells you what the coaching staff believes. And it'd be foolish of me not to take the supposed quarterback one as my buying stock. Because as of right now, if I had to put money on who would be quarterback one the next 13 days, it would be Cam Fancher.
We definitely said that when they picked him up off the transfer portal. Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to play the clip of when Cam Fancher was signed and what I said that he was. If he is announced as quarterback one on the podcast, I will cut what I said. I will cut what me and Nick said, and I will play it.
I might have to read what you texted me.
I don't even remember what I texted you.
Well, no, I was the one who texted you that they just picked up Cam Fancher, and I remember what you said.
It was probably along the lines of, "There's no way this guy is starting a game."
Well, if he ends up being the week one starter, we're gonna reveal. We're gonna reveal.
Yeah, if he ends up, I'm totally fine revealing everything that we've said. But at the end of the day, it's all about winning games. And if he is quarterback one, I don't care as long as UCF wins football games. So that's my first pick. And now I'm going to get my second pick. I'm going Wade and Charles. I think everybody's starting to see what kind of we saw in spring a little bit. He's making plays. He's a big-bodied receiver. Yes, he's young, but I think right now, yes, there are receivers that have kind of taken shape. DJ Black is one of them where you can kind of feel confident that DJ Black is a guy, right? But I think there's other names in the receiver room that you're not necessarily as confident in. They can make a name for themselves, but I think you want to go with the upside kid who's already showing it and is showing it every day in practice. So I'm going to go Wade and Charles as my second pick. Nick, who do you have as your second pick?
I might be biased because we got a chance, obviously, to spend some time with him on the Meet the Night show, but I'm going to go with Carter Miller. One of the more high-profile transfers that UCF brought in, obviously, coming in from Louisiana Monroe and James Madison before that. A little bit of hype that he came in with, choosing to come to UCF over Colorado ultimately. And he's going to be your starting center, and I think he has a chance to be like that type of fire starter dude on that offense, that nasty guy that you want there on your offensive line. And that can develop, obviously, a really important rapport with whoever's going to be the starting quarterback. But I think he has a chance. I mean, I think already he's turned himself into a fan favorite when you look at the fact that the guy, and you saw all the articles this weekend after he spoke to that media day type thing that UCF did last week. And he told us, obviously, the tattoo. I mean, that tattoo's insane. I mean, the guy hadn't even stepped on campus yet, I don't think, and he was getting that tattoo. So absolutely crazy, but he's a great player, and I think he's going to, really stand out this year for UCF and turn himself into a fan favorite. And I like the fact that he's confident. And he was talking, last weekend, and he said that, I want to be, the best center in the Big 12, and I want to be all conference, and I want to be all those things. So he's got the confidence for the position. So I think the stock is certainly up for Carter Miller right now.
All right, now I'm going to toss it back to Stephen to give his second buy.
Lewis Carter is my second buy. Linebacker transferring in from Oklahoma. 23 tackles, 2 takeaways last year. Played mostly on special teams, but I've been hearing a lot of good things. He's been running with the ones. Him and Keelah Lawson have really kind of taken over that starting linebacker unit. And I really just like them as a pair. I heard he's calling plays as well, which is...
Now, do we want to touch on anybody that maybe you didn't get to choose? Do we want to touch on anybody that anybody else said in the buy category? Nick, I'll start with you. Is there anybody that was mentioned that you agree with?
I mean, I have to agree with you on Cam Fancher. I think at this point we all do, because of the fact that he was running with the ones at least to start Monday's practice. And it's like the more you listen to like the players speak about him, and the more you listen to the way the coaches speak about him, and you see him at practice, it just sort of has that feel. Nothing's been decided yet, I guess, but it just sort of has that feel that he may have the upper hand on this thing and could win it, which is just something that I don't know how many people saw coming. So,
Steven, same to you. Is there anybody that was mentioned that you didn't choose, but that you would also agree with buying their stock?
I mean, I really like that Antoine Jackson pick. I don't think a lot of people know he enrolled early at East Carolina. So he is only supposed to be a sophomore now. So, I mean, last year you can chuck up to the injury. You can also chuck up to he was 18 years old. I mean, that's going to happen. You're going to get you're going to have some issues. So.
Well, you just made Nick's head big. He gives a little shrug on the video. So,
yeah,
for the audio listeners, I apologize. You couldn't see it. But let's go to our selling. Now, this is where, at the end of the day, I want to be very clear. We don't know if these players are going to be good or not, or if on both sides. So, Stephen, I'll start with you. Whose stock are you selling?
I want to preface this by saying I think this player is really talented. I just don't know how much he's going to get on the field, and that's Dylan Wade, the tight end transfer from Maryland. I think Kylan Fox has kind of established himself as that tight end one, and Max Drag coming in from App State, blocking style tight end, I think he's kind of likely to feature heavily in the offense, and I don't know if that leaves a lot of space for Dylan Wade. I think he'll contribute in small moments, but I'm just not sure if the expectation is going to be matched, and that's why I'm selling my stock.
That's a good pick. For the record, I agree with Stephen on Dylan Wade, and I think his points were well made there. I'm going to – it's my pick, right?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I'm not jumping the gun here.
It was actually perfect. Like you took that perfectly, but then you asked if you did it perfectly and messed it up a little. But
yeah, I know. I was having a pro moment, and then got a little too ahead of myself. Anyway, I'm not going to overcomplicate this. I'm going to go with Taven Jackson for the same reason I mentioned Cam Fancher there a second ago, getting the first team reps on Monday. And Taven was coming out third, not even second. He was coming out third, and I just feel like it's one of those things where I feel like off season we've like not that we've danced around it necessarily, we've sort of alluded to it, and the fact that we've gotten this far to the point where as we're recording here, it's August 13th. As I look at it, we're just a couple weeks away from the opener. At least in my mind, I thought that David Jackson would have solidified his role as a starter by now. At least that's how I envisioned this was going to go. I don't know if UCF envisioned the way that was going to go, but that's how it's happened. And so the idea that he hasn't sort of taken this competition and made it his, I think is a little telling at this point, especially because we know how much they loved him and everything. I don't know how much they're paying him, but I'm going to assume it's not like, pennies or anything like that. And how highly that Mackenzie Milton spoke of him and that Frost spoke of him and everything when he first came in. The fact that we are sitting here today and he has not been able, and this is not disrespect to Cam Fancher or Jakari Brown or anything like that, it just feels like this was a ready-made competition for him to win. And I get the sense that they thought he was going to win it and eventually take it at some point. And clearly, the way I read things, that has just not happened yet.
Yep, that's a good one. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about it. My two are very simple. It's about belief, not necessarily in what they're going to do on this team, but what they've done previously. And I think Malachi Lawrence is a name. I really like Malachi. I think he showed a lot a couple years ago, and then last year he really took a dip in terms of performance. Granted, I've heard that he worked a lot on his body in this offseason. He got to the right spot he needed to be. I think he's going to have a better season. In terms of just confidence, I'm just more confident in some of the other edge guys compared to Malachi. So I'd probably buy their stock and sell a little Malachi stock. But at the end of the day, I do think that Malachi is going to have a much better season. And I hope that he proves me wrong. The other guy is Marcus Burke. We've been hearing a lot about Marcus Burke. It kind of seems like he's on a path to potentially be a starter in that wide receiver group. For me, he hasn't really proven anything in the college football aspect. He's been at Florida for a long time, has never really proved himself. UCF kind of gives him that opportunity, but it's not like we're seeing a lot of Marcus Burke clips on social media and at practice. We're seeing a lot of, Wade and Charles. We're seeing a lot of DJ Black. So that's kind of where I'd rather buy my Wade in stock and sell my Marcus Burke stock, because at the end of the day, I want to buy stock into somebody that I think is going to be starting come week 6, not necessarily week 1. So I'm going to go Marcus Burke here. Nick, go ahead with yours.
I'm going to go with Burdell Richardson. Burdell is somebody that I feel like have talked about a lot on this show for someone that we really have not seen play much. Last year, I feel like the three of us were calling for this guy to get on the field as a true freshman. And for one reason or the other, it just didn't happen. But it seemed to be like the consensus. There was a lot of buzz surrounding Burdell Richardson, maybe this time last offseason. I don't feel like I'm hearing his name as much as we get closer to the start of this season. And it's really, unfortunate, because this is a wide receiver group that has sort of been, at least on paper, you're like begging for somebody to take that, kind of similar to the quarterback competition, somebody to step up and be that one. And I don't think at one point I've heard Burdell's name. We've heard DJ Black's name be thrown around. We've heard some others. You really haven't heard Burdell. And now I'm starting to think, how much run is he going to get in there? And, I've seen some clips on social media, these practices, because obviously I'm not out there and haven't been able to make it to any of those. I've seen some clips on him where it doesn't look like he's getting great separation and things like that. So Burdell right now, I think I have to say is stock down.
I mean, I really like that pick after, kind of this first spring he had as an early enrollee hasn't really worked out, and I don't really think he's going to make his way onto the field this year. My pick, Cole Kozlowski. I think I identified him on this show as an NFL type guy, and I'm worried that he's not going to make the 2 deep at this point.
Did.
Troy Ford Jr. is really pushing for that backup Mike linebacker spot, and kind of making me look bad as far as like an analyst, but I don't think he's doing anything wrong. I think other people are stepping up around him, and linebacker's position at UCF I'm pretty confident in, and he's kind of getting lost in that shuffle, and I think I have to sell some of my stock, even though I think he's a great player.
Can I just say, if there was stock up for a position group, I feel like I kind of like starting to like this linebacker room a lot.
Yeah.
Like if I was just doing a general position group, I know Steven's touched on 2 of them so far. Kind of liking the linebacker group and the way it stands. And please so help us because of after what we've watched the last couple of years.
I mean, to be fair, last year was a lot better. It wasn't as much great, but it was much better than the year before.
Yeah. Well, they have 5 guys now that I would trust to play significant roles.
Right.
Yeah. I know we've touched on it a lot as we close off before we go to Andrew Cherico. Taven Jackson, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and say that there's a 0% chance that he starts. I still think the quarterback competition is fluid. I still think a lot can happen. I still think Taven has 2 weeks to go out and win the job. It just seems like, guys, it does seem like there is a shift in momentum where there is kind of lines starting to be drawn, at least just from the coaching staff. Like, you didn't need to show team period to media. You didn't need to show that. You didn't need to show that Cam Fancher was the first one out there. Now, granted, it could just be, right, that in the previous practice, Cam was the better quarterback and he got first team reps that next day. It could be. But I think all of us are hearing similar things where it seems like Cam Fancher is the favorite, not just for those couple days, but from this camp.
Yeah, and let me say this too. If Cam ends up being the guy, just because like we didn't expect it or anything like that, and we're just going off of what he did at FAU, it doesn't mean like we're gonna like crap on it or anything like that. At least I won't. And the reason why I say that is because I think you know maybe under a previous regime we had this happened last year, obviously with KJ Jefferson when he came in and you know, what he was getting paid and all that and the notoriety he earned in the SEC. And they stuck with KJ Jefferson through everything up until those first 5 games of the season. It feels like this staff is truly invested in playing whoever is performing the best in practice, and whoever is picking things up the quickest or the learning and all that kind of stuff. And if Taven Jackson just isn't that guy, I mean, I kind of appreciate the fact that if they think Cam Fancher's that, then I have to think they fully vetted it and everything, and they can see it. Obviously, they're out there and they're talking with these guys. So I kind of have a good feeling about it. So I think there might be some people out there that if Cam Fancher gets the starting job, they're going to be like, what are they doing? Taven's the guy and everything. Well, if Taven hasn't performed in practice, he hasn't performed in practice, and Cam might be better.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you can take the FAU experience out. Obviously, that was a very bad team. He was playing against one of the worst offensive lines in the country. But something Scott Frost has touched on is I want the quarterback that can just make the right play. Not make the winning play, but make the right play. And I think Cam Fancher represents that. He can take off for a 6-yard run to get you a first down. He can dump it off to a running back to pick up a late first down to seal the game. I think that's what they're looking for. And I don't think Taven Jackson's out of it, even if he's not named the starter week 1. I think you have 2 games where they're going to play more than one quarterback. You'd hope that they're up by enough where they can play all 3. And, the battle might go into the season and you prove yourself like Dylan Gabriel did in 2019.
All right.
We will see. We've got 2 weeks left. A lot can happen. A lot can change unless Scott Frost names a starting quarterback, which I don't foresee happening. But a lot can happen in 2 weeks. Guys, I appreciate you coming on. We've got a lot more content in the next couple weeks. But I do want to toss it over. Stephen, before we toss it over, I want to give Stephen an opportunity. Where can people find you? I already plugged Stephen's Substack or Stephen's places, but go ahead and give your 2 seconds here.
Obviously, Stephen's place on Substack, Stephen S. Leonard 27 on all social medias, and here, I guess, for all my video content, I'm doing it with you guys. So love the thing. Can't wait to travel to Baylor by myself.
That's the spirit.
Sicko.
You all will see Nick next week, so you'll see him. But with that being said, here is my interview with Latavius Murray's Knights 24/7's Andrew Cherico. And like I said, Andrew Cherico joins us. Latavius Murray's Knights 24/7, Sons of UCF. covering the Orlando Magic. Busy man, Andrew. First time on the pod. We appreciate you coming. And how are you doing with such a busy schedule? It was already busy, but at a busier schedule nowadays.
Thank you for having me on, Sean. I mean, I'm happy to be here. Happy to find time in the schedule to be here. I actually moved a lot out the way. No, I'm just joking. This was actually pretty free. Everything's all good though. We'll see how it leads up as I start classes next week as well. I'm starting 4 classes. I'm a full-time student on top of that. Stacking the plates. But you know what? We'll manage it. We'll do all good, and we'll get some good coverage of UCF football. How's it going for you, man?
It's going good. I'm busy, but it just maybe not as busy as you. Or when I was in your shoes, when I was your age, there was no way I was doing the amount you're doing. So I think everybody can commend it, and everybody loves all the work you do. We love the work you do here at Charge On, and obviously we're excited to kind of cover the team this season. But you've been out at practice. I talked to Brandon Helwig last week. I've been traveling, so I'm back home for a couple days, hitting the road tomorrow. But you have been at practice every day. That there's been an open period. Now, one thing I was intrigued about was when we got kind of the schedule, there was only about 4 open media periods in 3 weeks. So there was kind of this, okay, there's probably not much we're going to find out in the 3 weeks and 3.5 weeks. Not really going to see a lot. But boy, this week, did they just throw everybody for a curveball. Obviously, they put Cam Fancher out as quarterback 1 in the first team. Granted, we're around. We hear things from multiple people. Kind of seemed like a couple days before that, the buzz around Cam Fancher was kind of heating up. I was hearing things. I'm sure you were hearing things. There's just this buzz that was happening around Cam Fancher. And then they have an open media availability that I don't think was on the schedule. And boom, they put him out there. What have you seen specifically? We've seen him in spring, right? We've seen him throw now in fall. What have you seen to make you think that maybe he might be the guy? And then what can you also say about why it's maybe not as solidified yet as people may think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off. I mean, let's go back to spring. We'll start off in spring. We had Jakari, had Taven, had Cam, and had Dylan Risk as well. And that was the big 4 battle. We weren't sure who was going to make it. We even lead a sign to who was going to start during the fall. And as spring went along, I felt like the general theme was still Taven Jackson. Taven Jackson, he was making all the viral throws in practice. You would see the leadership camps, and he was in the front of the room leading. But as we've more transitioned into fall camp, as you mentioned, you see Cam Fancher running out with the ones a lot. I mean, and I will say this as a disclaimer. We're only allowed 20 minutes of practice availability. Just because we see Cam running out with the ones during our session doesn't mean he's running out with the ones all the time. I think they've done a balanced mix as well. It's Coach Frost and Coach Cooper about how they're balancing that. And they said everybody's getting their fair shot with the ones. Just so happens to be during our practice session, he is with the ones. Maybe on purpose, maybe not. Who knows? But I would definitely agree that he has had possibly the strongest showing during practice. Between his arm strength is the immediate thing you notice. His decision making, that's where it gets a little bit shaky. With Taven Jackson, you like his decision making. He's an all around build, and then you just love the idea of a Jakari Brown running this offense. Fast, dual threat, strong arm. Can he work on the consistency? Can he make the effortless throws, the throws that you need on third down to continue the drive? Coach Frost is looking for consistency on all 3 downs. Is Jakari going to give us that consistency? Is Taven going to give us that consistency? Is Cam? That's the big question. Now, you want to make it even more controversial. They said there's not much separation between these 3 quarterbacks. Is it because they're all performing super well, or has no one stood out from the rest from each other, meaning they're all doing okay? I'm leaning towards they're doing okay, and they're waiting for one to take that step up, because I feel like Coach Frost wants a quarterback right now. He knows in his mind he wants one going into the season. Don't be surprised if they play all 3. I think it's a no-brainer, matter of fact, that they're going to play all 3 during the first game. Now, after that, that's when things get a little spicy. I do think whoever runs out first in the first game will be the starting quarterback, and I think he wants to know that. I don't think they want this competition to go on much longer. Speaking with Coach Cooper, he said it's ideal we would have known who the starting quarterback was before fall camp, and now it's leading up. We're almost 2 weeks from the game, and now it's like, okay, things are happening really fast. The offense is progressing. We're able to dissect now who should be the ones in the offense, who should be the ones in the defense. But quarterback is the big question mark. But yet, to your point, Cam Fancher does have the most buzz around him right now. Is it substantial buzz? No. I still wouldn't say it's 100% confirmed. Does he have a good shot right now? Yes. Do I think Taven and Jakari right there? Also yes.
Yeah, I've been on record saying on this podcast that, and this was granted probably a couple weeks to a month ago, I said the way that Scott Frost is talking, I would not be shocked if the quarterback battle goes into week 1. That, yeah, you're going to have a guy go out there first because you need to. But my thought process was always the way that Coach Frost is talking and saying that it's so even and nobody's really gone out of their way to take the job, that in a couple weeks, you're not going to have a guy just automatically do that. My thoughts have changed a bit because, again, they didn't need to do team periods the way they did. They didn't need to have Cam Fancher in the middle of basically the team stretch or team huddle, whatever you will. They're doing things to maybe not hint, but they're trying to give leadership abilities and qualities to their starting quarterback to try and get the team to buy around him. And I do think that, to your point, it comes down to consistency. Taven Jackson, if he does not win this job, is not going to be because he's not the most talented. I think we can all agree if you take just the most talented in terms of intangibles, Taven Jackson would be your starting quarterback. But if he's not the most consistent and he's too much up and down, that's where you might see a guy, like a Cam Fancher, take a starting job when nobody expected, especially me, nobody in the media, I'm sure, was expecting it. But to your point, yes, it is a consistency thing.
And I would even go one step further. I don't think he's looking for the next premier quarterback of UCF. Of course, he thinks all three are talented enough to start. But I think all UCF needs this season in order to get that rebound, to get that next step back into the right groove under Coach Frost's system, a game manager. Can a guy go out there, hit the short, easy throws? He doesn't need to make 50-yard spectacular passes all over the field. This offense is going to be very close to the line of scrimmage. You're going to see a lot of dump offs, a lot of bubble screens to Dwayne Thomas, Speedy. You're going to see a lot of usage on the running backs. I'm not just talking about Miles. I'm not just talking about Nixon. You're going to see a lot of Stacey Gage, Tavion Swint, AG. All three players who have been highly touted by running back coach Jimmy Beal and the veteran running backs. I think it's going to be a lot of slants, a lot of RPOs. You're not going to see that many bombs this year, especially even though Coach mentioned there was good deep balls during scrimmage. I just don't see that offense constructed like that. And that almost makes you want to think, is Jakari the guy for an offense that's being ran in a triple option, run pass option? A guy who's going to be able to scramble, get some extra yards on his legs. That's all the considerations because you want to build your system around your quarterback. You have a system, but you need to fit your quarterback's strengths into that need. If you have Cam Fancher trying to play like Jakari, that might not work. With the talent he has around him, can he make an offense that's air raid, spread, verticals, all that stuff? That might not work.
We will see. I said it on part 1. Now we're on part 2. It's going to be, you got 13 days, 2 weeks to really kind of see if one of those guys takes the job. And if not, then we'll go into week 1 with a quarterback battle for an actual regular season game. But
I don't want to cut you off. I do think the hype of maybe a multi-quarterback system, I know Coach Frost didn't dismiss it. He did say, I've never had to do that in my career. I expect that he doesn't want to do that. I'm thinking the idea of a 2-quarterback system, don't, I wouldn't say consider it. Don't consider it. I think he wants to stick with one guy.
I think people like the Jakari Brown. To be fair, I think there is a skill set for Jakari in this offense as a 1-2-3 play type of idea, but don't expect it to be, switching every series.
Every drive. No, that's not right.
We saw that too much last season with a couple games, so we don't need to see that again this season. Let's talk about wide receivers a little bit. I'm very intrigued. You've been posting a lot, and there's one person that is kind of just making plays. He's going to be on Meet the Knights on Monday. Little tease there. Wayne Charles. Wayne Charles is a guy that is a true freshman. They got him to sign on the dotted line to come to UCF when UCF had no coach and really nothing going for it. And Wayne Charles stuck to his guns and signed with the Knights. And he looks like he is stepping up. Now, we obviously know DJ Black. You talked about Speedy. Does it seem right now that there is, and obviously we know Marcus Burke is another name coming from Florida that people are expecting to kind of have a name. What are you seeing in those first 20 minutes? Does it seem like Wayne Charles is kind of slowly but surely making his way up that chart to potentially be a true freshman wide receiver starting from day one?
I wouldn't say day one. I think we do need to get out of the mindset of these freshmen aren't going to start for the pure fact they're freshmen. That was the Gus Malzahn system. Frost is the opposite. He wants to put the best guy on the field, whether that person was recruited by Frost or whether it wasn't recruited by Frost. He wants the best people on that field. He wants the best chance to make that bowl game in year one. Now, to that point, Wade Charles, I definitely do see him getting majority of the second unit playing time, and I would say there's a solid chance he's probably a starter by week 6. Just from his speed, athleticism, agility, he is the future of wide receiver at UCF. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I think him, Day, and Carl Jenkins, plus Jordan Bridgewater, that's an extremely talented underclass of wide receivers. And I think DJ Black and Dwayne Thomas are just going to lead the way along with Marcus Burke. But there's sneaky talent in that wide receiver room. It's by far not the most talented on the team among actually the biggest question marks. But you go in guys like Chris Nommerkamp, Caleb Rollerson. You have all these X factors in there. If one of those guys can emerge, they can quickly slide into a place where we all expected Day to start during spring because he was making some ridiculous grabs. And as we've transitioned into fall, Wade Charles is making grabs. I don't know if you saw my recent clip. He made a catch falling out of bounds, contorting his body midair, and it seems like he does that every practice. It's almost I'm looking out for him every single play he's on the field because you wait for him to make a spectacular grab. Many of the quarterbacks know if you put it in his vicinity, he's going to grab it. But in terms of Waden, he's extremely talented. If an injury happens, God forbid, if an injury happens, you never want to see that happen. Or if the talent isn't there and nobody's producing like they should, I expect Waden to step up rather quickly as the number one guy.
And I think people have mentioned that they're not worried about the wide receivers because they remember Scott Frost's offense. They know Scott Frost's offense. He makes receivers shine and pop. But you can understand where UCF fans can be a little trepidatious because they don't know any of the guys. It's basically all transfers. And then, at the end of the day, you mentioned it. This is not the old regime in any way, shape, or form. We talked about a guy like Taven Jackson potentially not starting. In the last regime, there'd be no question he'd be starting. Then you look at a true freshman wide receiver that's making plays, there would have been no shot he'd be playing. But now there's a chance that he's starting by week 6, to your point. So it's like, this isn't the old staff. This is a brand new staff. And I think with some of those transfers that Scott Frost truly believes in and says that he doesn't feel like they missed, they think their process was great in terms of how and where they hit in the transfer portal. I think you could feel comfortable with the guys that are out there that they can make an impact, but don't sleep on the young guys just because they're young. Because like you said, he is probably the future of the UCF wide receiver room in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. And Coach Beckton marked him that as well. Like those guys are leaders, immediate leaders. They're making plays, and like you mentioned, it's gonna be interesting to see how they turn out because the offense. You mentioned Coach Frost can make wide receivers shine. Not if you don't have a quarterback to get them the ball. So how is that going to play into his system? He mentioned after his first scrimmage, he was depressed after his first stint at UCF after his first scrimmage. Now he wasn't depressed. He certainly wasn't satisfied. How can you see that offense shape around and how you're going to see him execute with the pieces he has?
For sure. Really excited to see. I think everybody's just excited to see how the offense is. Everybody's been hearing about the defense, but the offense specifically, I think the unknown is almost exciting. So
I'll also add on with the offense, the tight ends are going to be a major contributor. This isn't going to be Randy Pittman here and there, one or two plays throughout the entire game when he arguably had some of the best receiving skills on the team last year, aside from Kobe Hudson. I think you're going to see Kylan Fox and Dylan Wade get a really solid amount of touches. You're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. It's going to be really impressive to see. I think they're going to have. I think you might even see Kylan snap along, line up at wideout. I think you're going to see him execute plays like that with his height and his speed. He can make groundbreaking plays.
And I think Max Drag is also doing a lot of good things, that he's kind of come out of nowhere a little bit, where you're like, oh, like UCF has a good amount of tight ends that they can really implement, and they're not just blocking. They can go out and catch some balls. So I 100% agree. I think it's just a lot of unknowns, but you look at the roster, you look at the offense, and you're like, okay, they've got pieces potentially. If they could put it together, I think it could be better than what people are expecting. Let's quickly touch on the defense before I let you go. Antoine Jackson is kind of just going crazy over the last couple weeks. I've been very vocal that I think the secondary was one of those things that in the portal, they went out and got guys, but you didn't feel the guys that they got were going to be really game changers. You were like, okay, like they got a bunch of guys in the transfer portal in the secondary. You kind of looked at that as a potential concern. And then you looked at an Antoine Jackson coming back and you're like, well, it was almost like people just wrote him off. Like, we don't really care if he's back or not. He didn't really perform well. He wasn't that good last year. Then we hear about the injury and what he was going through. And now you kind of just see the difference in how he's playing. This is a former 4-star recruit. What have you seen from him the last couple of weeks? And how much does it just show that injury was truly affecting him?
I mean, if you want to go, we can even go back to last year. He had some impressive plays during the spring game, as you mentioned. Then the injury impacted him. He's been dealing with injuries almost his entire collegiate career. Talking about this UCF D-back room, I mean, after Chase and Johnson made his exit for the 100th time, there was a big question mark on who was going to be lining up as opposed to the current cornerback who's solidified, I would say, Jaden Bellamy. Who was going to line up next to him? You know, you have safety. At nickel, you have Braden Marshall. Safety, you have Philip Dunham. Across from him, Damari Henderson. Who was going to be that second guy at the cornerback? And many were expecting DJ Bell, but then Antoine Jackson just came. He just came back, and he just started ball hawking. He was making big hits. He used to play wide receiver in high school, and he took his talent with his hands all the way up to UCF. And you can see that many plays, he's jumping over guys' backs. He's making athletic interceptions. His ball instincts are freakish. He's almost on every play. Him and Philip Dunham are going to be 2 stars in the secondary. And it's really almost justifying to see a guy who's dealt with injuries his entire career finally get his shot, and he's really making the most out of it. Now you just pray he can stay healthy. I would say the depth behind him is a bit weaker at cornerback than it has been in previous years. I do expect, like I mentioned, DJ Bell to play a solid amount, Hakeem Stroud, guys like that. But Antoine Jackson, you love to see a guy like that step up when there was just such a big question mark.
Andrew, last question before I let you go. Obviously, I talked to Brandon last week. I'm talking to a couple more guys on the show in the next couple weeks. I think we're all seeing, we are around the team more. You're especially around the team more than me the last couple weeks. But we get to see them up close and kind of see the difference. We get to talk to them, see what the difference are from last season to this season. And I think the national media just doesn't really know UCF. They just look at 70 new transfers. They look at brand new coaching staff. They look at Scott Frost having the dumpster fire at Nebraska. They look at Alex Grinch. And they just kind of put UCF in this different box of like, that's going to be mediocre. From our perspective, last season, I think we were all wrong. We all were kind of just assuming major things. And that even though we might have heard different, we were just assuming, oh, this is going to be much better. I think from my perspective, I think 6-6 is a very good goal to set. That I think this team, from everything we've heard, seen, talked about with our eyes and ears, I think 6-6 is very doable. And I think thinking that UCF's going to be way worse than that, I think is not necessarily the right way to view this season. What do you view that as? And what do you view this season from everything that you've seen? Obviously not getting ahead of ourselves and setting a prediction and saying UCF's going to win 10 games. But what have you seen to make you believe that this team could go to a bowl game this year?
We take it back to last season. Gus, KJ, right in the KJ wave, right in the RJ Harvey wave, talented Kobe Hudson, talented defensive tackle room, Lee Hunter, Ricky Barber, just talent all over that team. Never gelled together, never became what it was supposed to be. UCF fans extremely, as well as myself, extremely underwhelmed with the performance, and obviously it resulted in a major overhaul. Now going into this season, Coach Frost returning. Is this a redemption story? Alex Grinch, is this a redemption story? every quarterback in that room right now is this a redemption story. This has a chance to be the UCF redemption team in a way, to rebound and say we're made for the Big 12. This UCF team hasn't, especially last season, doesn't look like they could have competed in a Big 12 setting. They didn't win a game on the road, and it was really, really upsetting to see that. Except for TCU, missed TCU, but didn't win a game on the road except for
our
TCU.
Super Bowl, UCF Super Bowl last year.
I thought we were going all the way last season. After that, man, that was special, and then after that, it all went downhill. I think it's important to remember that this team, like you said, is 70 brand new transfers. Coach Frost is a great head coach. He's not going to turn this boat around right away. It took him time in his first stint. It took him at least a season, and unprecedented things happened after that. Don't expect another 12-0 season. I think you can't expect a 6-6 season. I think that is realistic. Aside from that being part of Coach Frost's bonus, where he gets a little bit extra if he makes that bowl game. But on top of that, I think he really just wants to see UCF succeed, and I think he really misses being back home. And I think with the talent he has, I think he's really put an emphasis on building the culture. You hear all these players talking about culture, and is this a real brotherhood? Credit to your episode, speaking with Braden, he said Gus felt like they left them behind, didn't really feel like a real connection. And now it's special. I feel like a lot of players view this special. Speaking through all of spring and fall, these players have a genuine connection. They said the offense is speaking to defense in times they would have never spoken. They're hanging out with the special teams guys who are usually isolated from the team, especially in the previous regime. So it's really special to see a group like this come together and hopefully you want to see them win. You want to see them at least reach that bowl game. I think is possible. I think Scott Frost has a unique offensive system. It really depends on quarterback. No matter what anybody says at the end of the day, I do think the quarterback is the most important position on the field. It doesn't matter if you have the greatest quarterback of all time or the greatest team of all time. If you have a bad quarterback, that'll reflect on the field. I think they really need to figure out who quarterback one is going to be, who can be that game manager, who can get that 3rd and 5 when it's needed, who can continue the drive on the 50-yard line as opposed to a punt. Those kind of situations, it's what's going to dictate the difference between a 4-8 team again versus a 6-6 and possibly a bowl win.
Good words, Andrew. Thank you for coming on. Tell the people the million places that they can find any and all of your work or where you will be on.
Absolutely. So I am on X or Twitter, whatever you prefer, Andrew_Cherico. You can find a lot of my work on Latavius Murray's Nights 24/7. A lot of great content being pushed out there. We have great resources, unmatched resources in the UCF community. Definitely give it a look. I have a lot of exclusive interviews up on there doing high school recruiting beat, doing exclusive player interviews at UCF. And I think it's just a bunch of great content if you want to itch for more Knights content. And you can also catch my work on the Sons of UCF. I do a lot of video on there. You can see me at Big 12 Media Days. You can see me wrapping up the after practice at fall camp. You can see my thoughts and my predictions along with some of the other great people at Sons. And lastly, if you have some Orlando Magic fandom, you can come catch some of my articles at Orlando Magic on SI. Staying busy, Sean, as always. But thank you for having me on, man. Much appreciated.
I appreciate you coming on, Andrew. He actually just released a really cool video of Brit's Bunch. He went out to Brit's Bunch, and they had an event, and it's a very good video. Quick 3-minute watch. Go check that out on the Sons of UCF page. But that's going to do it here for this episode of Charge On. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that you do. I'm going to mention FanDuel again, America's #1 sports book. If you want to bet this college football season, you're just 2 mere weeks away. FanDuel is the place to do it. I am betting on UCF over 5.5 in win total. That's what I'm going to do. Go and download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book for all your sports betting this college football season. All right, everybody, this has been Charge On. We will see you next week.